What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 122 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres. I'm Megan, self proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you finished. Today's episode features a chat with Ashley Peters. We're talking about her book in Stasis that just came out last week on January 12th, so it's available now. I really enjoyed this chat with Ashley. The book in general, the subject matter is bleak and it's speculative fiction. It's also dystopian, but it was really cool to talk to Ashley and go off on tangents about the parallels that we're seeing to current events and also how we would fare in that type of world. Some spoilers do pop up in these conversations, but the episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So if you don't know why Ashley and I talk for quite some time about our survival skills and camping in particular, then hit pause and add this episode to your playlist. Then go pick up a copy of In Stasis. The interview will be here when you're ready. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm saying what the fuck to the author for making me feel things. Just please be mindful around listening ears. Books coming out this week of January 20th. Book that just came out is The Lies We Trade by Christine Delano. And that my interview with Christine will be coming out next week. And it's a pretty good one, so I definitely recommend you guys pick it up. And without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Ashley. So today we've got Ashley Peters. We're talking about her book In Stasis. That book comes on January 12th. Ashley, thanks so much for joining me today. And obviously the whole point of like your story of In Stasis, it's like exploring one woman, like you said, who's she's not a survivalist, she's not like even like an ex-military or like a vet or anything like that. She is a reporter and she deals with like maybe the more ambitious things are she has to track down facts and bother people and make people uncomfortable to gather those facts as that profession requires, which I could never do. But I joke around with authors because I'm like, I would be such a boring character because I wouldn't know how to survive either. I wouldn't know how to live off the land. Like my husband was an
Yeah.
Eagle Scout. Like that's his
Yeah.
deal. Like it's even like whatever dystopian, zombie apocalypse, vampires take over the world. I would be like, this is not my problem. I'm gonna go hide in the corner and read my book. I don't know. I'm gonna hide in a closet until like the world maybe straightens itself out a little bit. But stuff like this, it is, yeah, it's a little scary. And there was definitely a handful of ways you could have approached this type of story, like this scenario. And I thought it was interesting how you went the route of someone she's not necessarily in fear for her life. She's just like in fear for her well-being until
Yeah.
later, you know what I mean? Because some things happen where she's like, oh shit. And even then I was writing notes. I was taking down notes while reading and I was like, oh no, like they're starting to
Yeah.
use drones. I was like, Jesse, you're in trouble. Stuff like that. So yeah, I just always get interested to learn about the type of research and you getting sucked down rabbit holes and your Google search history being a little bit questionable. I just like to explore those types of things because I think just stuff like this is pretty fascinating to me at least, and especially since the whole thing of where like no, you could there's a pattern, right? Like there's definitely commonalities in what you found amongst different timelines, different regions globally, different types of people, even like nations that are not as prosperous as the US. That's sometimes like, some of that stuff is just crazy to
Yeah. It
me.
was definitely it was an interesting thing because it all started like when my partner and I were discussing like something with real world politics and the aspect of I think like some dystopian movie or book or something. And made the comment. I'm like, I don't know why there's not more things where people just like go off grid. Like just be like, I'm done out for this
Mm,
amount of time. And that led into the discussion about how if there is anything survivalist, it's always like the man doing it and it's not the woman. And so
mm,
it spawned the idea for this, and then the more I started, like, digging into it and looking at, different historical events around the world, there were other things that came up. I always reference there's a museum in Amsterdam called the Resistance Museum. And it talks about how the local people like resisted during Nazi occupation. But it goes into it in a way where it's like it's just ordinary people doing any little things that they can and up being
Yeah.
extraordinary, but also just like the fear and the pressure and the weight of doing honest like what could be considered like minor things that have major impacts. And that was, I think, a huge inspiration for me, especially when it came to like in the chapters where certain things start getting taken away, like her ability to write about various things starts getting redacted more and more. The aspect
Right.
of being like city curfews and lockdowns and things like that. Because at least for Amsterdam, it wasn't like it was just like an all of a sudden thing. And that's also things in like
Mm,
in different like I'm sure like I only scratched the surface across like on a global scale. And I
right.
think that that's like sometimes we watch shows and we're like, why didn't they just leave? And because oftentimes by the
Yeah.
time they realize like it's too late. And so I wanted to explore that and just and to provide like a different look as to how, like you said, she kind of gets herself in this scenario where it's she's concerned for her well-being because of an event, but then there's different types of survival. Like there's the aspect of like a mental and emotional and like a survival in this world, like the political and like just societal world, but then also like literal survival and just, I don't know, try to layer it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and I can imagine how difficult that was for, like, you to put some pieces together in your storytelling and trying to put it together in a way that made sense, but also maybe could clue the reader in over time, like,
Hmm.
through flashbacks and stuff like that, like, how we're slowly seeing it, and then because we meet her, and then she's in the present day, and she's, like, already in the thick of survival mode, and then we slowly get the flashback. So I can respect and appreciate that struggle that you went through if trying to see, okay, how am I going to tell this story? How am I going to piece it together? And how am I going to like do so in a reader engaged? And because it's a very character driven story, right? And it could be tricky to keep the reader engaged when, like you said, like it's an average person, but maybe that's also like an average person being put in like
Hmm.
above average circumstances, and those are usually, like, more interesting anyway, and then you had to throw the dog in there, right? Because I'm such a sucker for dogs, so it was like, "Oh, yeah, he's got her back." Because she's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
let's go
Yeah.
pee,"
Very
like, whatever.
same
Because I
thing.
was
It's
like,
like this will
little
exist even
yeah.
in like a doomsday situation. Like the dog still has to go to the bathroom.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because 'cause I'm thinking, okay, yeah, like I said, my kids, they're 5 and 8, and I'm like, "Oh my god," I feel like that would spur me to actually try harder, but I definitely if it were just me, I would probably be even if I did try, I would be a little bit more successful, but I feel like with the kids, it's just like I would be so overwhelmed with, like, fear and paranoia, and plus the kids it just depends on that type of level, like, children, they understand a lot, but I don't think it's them the same way, and so it's yeah, 'cause I all these scenarios were going through my head, like, "Oh my god, my kids would be
Yeah.
not be quiet, they would be complaining, they would be like they'd be complaining, they would be, like, so bored because, like, there's nothing like, we can't connect yeah, absolutely, live off the grid and stuff like that, but yeah, that when you said small actions that don't well, actions from normal people that don't feel like that big, but were like little
Hmm.
defiant things. It reminds me of like I hopped years ago, I tagged along on my husband, he went on a work trip to Munich, and I tagged along before this before kids, and so a lot of the what I did a lot while he was working, I was going on tours, and just I would sign up for a tour, I would see what was going on that day and go up for meet like a tour, and one of them was like the rise of the Third Reich, and one of those things that stick with me was that they had demanded that citizens do a salute whenever they passed soldiers or whatever or whoever was patrolling and they I remember it was like one street, but a way to rebel against that, a lot of people would turn and go down an alleyway. so that they wouldn't have to pass the people and they wouldn't have to do that salute or that motion. So I was and so right now, like, it was a stop on that tour, and at some point they had it was, like, mostly, like, cobblestone or, like, stonework,
Mhm.
floors, ground, and they some of those stone chunks, they were replaced with, like, bronze or gold, I can't remember quite which, I'm thinking it was bronze or some copper, so basically a way to make it shine and stand out. So, like, to mark that, like, this was a small way that people rebelled. They chose to go in an alleyway to avoid having to do that, what was required of them, and I'm like, "That is so crazy," like, just like a collective people where it was understood and so many people did that where it's like a straight up momentous, like, it's
Mhm.
marked in history that way, and that's what when you were saying that, like, oh, it's like a like, kinda small actions that people did, even though it seemed small, it ended up being not small, that's what that reminded me of. That was, like, a perfect example of that reminded me of, and I just remember looking, and I was like I was taking a picture of it, I'm like, "God, that is so crazy," because like, even the other books that I've read, historical fiction that are centered around World War II, and even from, like, France's perspective, because they ended up, like, joining up with Germany, they were, like, I don't know, like, sympathetic to them. The people weren't, but the nation in general did. They sided with them. Or from Italy, and to see stories from that perspective, and that kinda just it's cool to, like, when I see examples like that from both sides and how there was such division, but, like, when you're looking at it from their perspective in that time, they probably didn't know how this was going to
Yeah.
last, right? They didn't know if they were ever gonna see the other side, they didn't know if they were ever gonna be liberated, and just I guess I just it's like there's so many layers to it, and that's why I say, like, there were so many ways that you could have gone, but making this kinda like a dystopian, like, in the future, and this is what might happen or what might occur had it gone that far, or I guess it could, but unfortunately, but it's crazy to me, but it's also in stories, they help us connect in
Yeah,
that
and
way,
that's what I
right?
think for me, like, I wanted her to be, like, an ordinary person because I do believe just in general that, like, ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things, especially when they're put in really, like, tough situations. Like you said, like, you with your kids, you said it would maybe make you, like, try harder or be figure out survival
Mhm,
because you have to. And it does
mhm.
make it makes it far more, I think, complex and messy and harder. But I do think that like ordinary people are capable of incredible things and that sometimes the incredible thing isn't like some big, grandiose, I don't know, action star gesture. It's just the little thing, like when she's making soup. And it's like, I have a good
Mm,
meal and it's like a little bit of comfort as I'm out here and I don't know when I'm going to no longer be out here. Just the little things that keep you
yeah.
going. So I'm glad I approached it from that way. I was laughing because a one of our art creators recently said that she felt like it was a like even though it's dystopian and it's horrifying in some ways, there's also cozy components to yeah, because
Mm.
even in the worst case scenario, you would be moments of like I don't want to say a silver lining, but like you would find moments of little tiny things to appreciate. And that would be cozy. Like
Yeah.
that would be a very human response to it. Even if whatever
Yeah, like, just sit back and exactly, like, just appreciate the quote, unquote "peace," the peace of it, the peacefulness of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for me, like wilderness and nature is definitely like a retreat and a reprieve for me. Like we literally just got back from Colorado and like I love being in the middle of nowhere. Like I will regularly say, if I'm going on a hike, I don't want to see another human. My mother's chagrin because she's worried I'm going to get hurt or something. And
Yeah.
so like I wanted it to be a
Right.
thing where Jesse was like enjoying or appreciating parts of nature, but then also weirdly felt guilty because for her, it's like I shouldn't take the collapse of like society as she knew it to like pause and
Yeah.
enjoy this. So I wanted that kind of that high contrast and that duality, which all of this made it very hard to classify this book. I was like, it's definitely dystopian and it's survivalist, but not Bear Grylls and
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause it from her perspective, it's I guess that was another thing that I think I appreciated because obviously, she is used to certain well, I don't know
yeah,
what you want
lifestyle.
luxuries, if you wanna even call it that, in comparison. right? Like,
Yeah.
climate control, not having to scrap forage or grow plant and watch your own crops at various points in the land, or having to destroy part of the structure so that you're less easy to find. It's there are certain luxuries that she was used to, but she was just huffing it out. She was putting up with it. She was trying to figure it out. And you could tell there was a sense of, there's a determination, but it was fueled from like not rage, right? Like she was angry to a certain extent, but not to the point where like, I'm just gonna burn it all to the ground, like, or at least that wasn't her what she jumped to. She was just like, "Okay, I just have to focus
Yeah.
on this first step." Like, and I have to figure out that how to keep myself alive and stay out of unwanted attention. And then she meets people along the way who she's like her own little support system she's come to lean on, but not necessarily because she's still not sure who she could trust and all that. I understandably, but yeah, it was 'cause kinda like how I mentioned earlier, you could have written a character who was like, you know, either super spoiled or the other way around, where they're like, "Oh, this is how I was 8 years ago when I was living in poverty with my mom," or whatever. It's you could have gone and I'm gonna go off on tangents, but, like, I did appreciate
Mhm.
Jesse's mom because she was worried about her mom, but her mom was like, "No, what like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What are they gonna like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it no matter what." Like,
I just say, I'm like, I hope when I'm, like, old that I'm like Jesse's mom. Like, that she's my
yeah. I know, it's just I think it's fun. It reminds me of when you get to a certain age, you're just like, "Fuck it," like, what
Yeah.
taking, like, her own little way of, like, "Oh, don't worry, honey, like, I'm just dealing in illegal medical
Don't worry.
supplies, like, don't."
Yeah. She I think she was a fun character to write because, like, while no one character is necessarily inspired by any one person, there are like I'm fortunate where I feel like strong women in my life to where when I was thinking about her and I knew like the actions that I wanted her to take and sign like some touch points, I was like thinking about certain people and then also like I said, like one day when I'm old, like if I was in the situation, I feel like this is how I would be. But
Mm,
also someone who I don't know, I feel like it's almost like a little like I say, like funny in a way. Like she almost I don't want to say doesn't take herself too seriously, but like she's very flippant about it. She's not I don't know, she doesn't like jump into a lecture to Jesse about getting more involved with certain things or like, why don't you join me in this endeavor? She's just like, nah, this is what I'm doing. Like, come and get me. She just doesn't care.
nah. It reminds me of, like, what is that? I forget what it's called, but
Mhm.
chaotic good.
Yeah,
She's not neutral, and she's not evil, but so she's just, like, a little I love that about certain characters. It's just, like, I'm always gonna be an advocate for
mhm.
female rage or just somebody who even if they're a villain, if they're toxic, if they're a woman, I'm like, "No, go do it." I just think it makes it more interesting, and it's also there is a level of under there, right? Like, you could see where they're coming from, even if they're the villain in this story. You can understand, you know what, like, I get it. Not in this story per se, but, like, if when it comes to women, maybe it's because 'cause I'm biased, but, like, I'm just like, "Nah, fuck the man." Like, just, like, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Like, I think it was, like, with Game of Thrones, like, even though the last season sucked, I was just, like I was still on the side. I was
yeah.
like
It could have been so much better. Felt so
I
rushed.
was like yeah. So, hopping off to something that you mentioned, what were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts?
I feel like from an emotional side, there's a scene towards the end where like bad stuff is going down and Jessie is at her lowest point. You don't know how things are going to turn out for her. And then me being me, because I am such a dog person, it's like if something horrible happens to
Mhm.
her, what happens to Janice? That part
Yeah.
for me, from like an emotional side, I'm just like, I was writing it, even though I know how this all gonna turn out, and it still just stings and
Mm,
hits. I think the hardest part of, like, the writing really was, like, writing and then editing to make sure that what was in my
mm,
head was being conveyed so that a reader obviously would read it and then be able to see the same thing, but for also it not to be, like, too almost inundated with research. There's one chapter in
right.
particular where she is going through and talking about different governments from around the world, and, like, that was one of the chapters where I had to do so much research, And so originally it did have like names of specific like historical individuals or specific regimes. And then when I looked back at it, it felt too academic, especially since everything else is very
Mm,
lyrical. And so I had to edit that down and cut a ton of that
mhm.
out so that it would still feel like the rest of the energy of the book. It was almost like a thing where I'm like, oh, I did all this research. I want people to know how much research I did. Honestly, I felt like for me, I've always been drawn to dystopian like books and movies and shows, and same thing with like horror. And I know some people will say, oh, when the world feels like we're almost in a dystopia, like they want to avoid that. I personally find it very cathartic because at least in whatever piece of fiction it is you're consuming, there is a beginning, a middle, and the end. Like there's a resolve.
Mm,
Whereas whatever's going on in real life, like we don't know the ending yet. So for
yeah.
me, it did feel like I don't know, just very cathartic and enjoyable to write it all. The editing was less enjoyable just because I feel like there's people who either you love the writing or you love the editing, and like the editing part, they were definitely I was just like, this is not as enjoyable and this takes literally twice as long to do. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is this.
I No, I know, and you're not alone. From the authors I speak with, they've spoken to authors who try to do as much self-editing along the way as possible so that they there's is less daunting, but then I've talked to some authors who were like, "You know what? I just needed to get the draft out there and prepared hear back about it." And yeah, it's just, oh, like if you're writing something super funny that you think is hilarious and you're waiting for like your editor to make a comment like, "Ha," and when they don't, you're like, "Oh, I'm not as funny as I thought I was." Like, and there's all certain like scenarios. I was like, no, you're right on track there. I would say it's totally common from what I hear. And I've done editing. I've done beta reading for my friend who writes dark romance, like really like taboo stuff. And it's funny because I've known her since high school and like 20 years, and I have to separate the pen name from my friend, but she like I help her and I want her to be successful, but I'm like not a dark romance girly by any means. I love romance, but I'm like that is the
Yeah,
subgenre that I don't gravitate towards at all. And so I learned a lot from reading her stories, but I'm like, okay, I could look at it objectively for the most part, where I'm, well, this is new and I didn't do research on this particular kink, but this is inconsistent with what
yeah,
you've done. But I was like, just make sure that
yeah,
this term matches, or like, wait, didn't she say this before? Or so it's kind of stuff that like that where I could like look at it objectively because I'm like, I'm gonna lean on your expertise here, even though I'm like, oh, like that I'm learning a lot from
yeah,
you, like from reading this. So yeah, the editing I could totally respect. That's yeah, it could totally be hard, but
yeah.
it's so
It's
necessary,
absolutely it's
right?
so necessary. I know, like I did mine in various stages between like having my partner and then close friends like look at and then
Yeah.
going through and editing myself and then having beta readers and then it was the like the aspect of just like like grammar and sentence structure and things like that to where I was going through and reading it like line by line backwards so that way your brain wouldn't
Oh.
fill in the gaps because like you know the story so your brain can just leave words out on page you know what it is so I did that
Oh.
which took like forever and a half.
I was gonna say that's
It
really
was
smart, but yeah.
I would find myself again, like, trying to fill in gaps, and I was like, "Nope, okay, we're done for tonight because your brain's not cooperating
Mm.
now." But I do think it was incredibly helpful, and then I weirdly found out that, like, there are words that are spelt, like, an English way, and then there's words that are spelled an American way, and apparently I use
Yeah.
both interchangeably. I guess
Oh.
it's a thing in Canada, but I found it out having like an S on the end of toward, like towards, and that's British, not
Oh,
American. So we had to choose a
okay.
side because yeah, I was like, I was
Yeah.
like, can't we just do it the Canadian way? Like I know I'm not, but can we? Can we pick some?
Yeah.
So that was like as a like mid-30s adult, I learned I'm like, oh, okay. Apparently, I've been spelling this word, I guess, wrong as an American my whole life. So that's fine.
Right, you're like, "Yeah, where did you
Yeah,
pick up on that?" You're kinda like, "Wait, I didn't realize it was
yeah.
like
I have
a
no
thing."
idea. Originally, I'm from Ohio, so I told my brother because he also spells things like how I spell them, and I'm like, I guess we were just too close. Like we were getting. some, like, I don't know, some Canadian, like, northern.
Yeah, I don't know, because
Yeah,
I'm in the Chicago area, and when I think, like, people who are too closer to Canada,
yeah,
I'm thinking,
Michigan.
like, Minnesota
Yeah.
or Michigan, yeah, exactly. But that's so funny, because even then, it's like you go I think when you are on the eastern side of the country, that's, like, more French Canadian. I think that's what I remember, because we did go to
Yeah.
Niagara Falls years ago, the very touristy part, but still, it was fun to see like, "Oh, yeah, that's right, we're in a different country because there are lots of things French, like French translations in addition to English. I think, like, when we were looking at machines even, we saw the packaging and what they call I think it was for Doritos, it was like
Oh,
fromage nacho, and I was like, "What?" Yeah, no, but that's so funny how some of those language, like, when you just grow up seeing things a certain way, and then you don't realize it until you're doing something like this, a huge project like this, where it's like you pick one or the other, and you didn't even
doing
realize
wrong, yeah.
you were doing both. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, right, I'm right there with you, I totally get it, that's so funny. Okay, so let's see, just a few more questions. We're doing okay on time, I know we took some time to figure everything out.
Yeah, I'm
You're still there,
yeah,
yeah?
no,
Are
you
we
were
doing
good.
okay on
I am
time?
good on time, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
just a couple more questions. Are there any I think I asked you this before, but maybe some of the answer cut off. What were you doing to, like, take care of yourself? Any self-care to get in the zone and pull yourself back out of the zone just from, such a kind of, like, a bleak subject matter?
I think for me, like, so I think for me when I wasn't writing this, like the writing wasn't so much the hard part. I do think sometimes the researching was because like the research was like real historical events. And then
Yeah.
when I was editing, as real world was being crazier, I was like, oof, in some ways. Honestly, for me, it's like we would watch a lot of various shows on Netflix or whatever. And I love a good documentary, I love a good horror show. And something that's just like very fantastical and just not here was
Yeah.
it the new Sabrina on Netflix. I've watched like multiple times and I love it. It's one of those where it's weirdly still a like kind of dark take on things, but because it's so fantastical, it doesn't feel I don't know, it doesn't feel as real world. Otherwise, it was definitely a thing where, like, I'm big on getting out in nature. I run like a decent amount, and then just like reading other books. Though a lot of my books are still like
Mm.
heavy and dark. I just got like my storygraph mood thing, and it was like heavy books are like
Oh,
bring the
okay.
line down, and happy books bring the line up, and mine's just like a weird wiggle. But like, yeah, just a lot of other reading, other types of show consumptions, and then like running. We're honestly a good space
Yeah.
just to like in general clear your head, but also I would be thinking about certain things in the story and either plot holes or if it was a really crappy run, like just the challenging run, there'd be part of me that'd be like, nope, Jesse would need this cardio. So with that,
Yeah, I no, I was a runner I wanna get back into it, but it's
yeah.
winter, I'm like, "Ugh." So, but I'll get back into it eventually, but no, you're absolutely right, where I talk to other people, other authors who or even just them walking, or they're trying to do something, like, when they're not at their desk, like, trying to brainstorm, or at their computer trying to brainstorm, that when they're not thinking about it, when they're to, like, go for a walk or get that vitamin D in, going outside, that's when some of the brain like that happens, where those ideas pop in, or you can't help but, like, your brain's like, "Oh, hey, what about that?"
Yeah, I guess too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the best way for me to just like self care and tune out from any dystopia of real or fiction was honestly it's just like playing with my dogs. Like it's very I don't want to say very
Yeah.
basic, but just because they're always so happy and their happiness,
Yeah.
okay, I can't be.
How
So
old
we
are
have
they?
three. Our one is 16, our one is 15, and our other one is 2.5.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
what a
we
gap
always thought
between
we were
them.
gonna have the 2, and then the 3rd one, like, through circumstance, came crashing into our life. But he does make the other 2 more excited and playful and stuff because
Yeah.
he'll just randomly, like, 2 o'clock in the afternoon be like, "It's playtime." Like, it's been decreed.
Yeah.
You're gonna play with me.
I love that. No, mine, she's going on 12 years old, so that's why I was, like, curious. I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome," because I do see that with families who have older dogs and then they'll get a younger one, and they it's very similar where that little
Mhm.
energy back up. They get the little life picked back up, and I love it because my she's still playful, and she comes on runs with me for the most part, but I could tell she gets winded a little bit easier, or and she's got, like, a skinnier dog, so she like, when I was training for the marathon like, years ago, she was able to keep up with me. I think it was, like, at least probably 6 years ago. So she was younger, but she was still able to, like I wouldn't let her go more than 10 miles with me because and she has a
Yeah.
black fur coat, so I worried about her, but other than that, like, it depends on the weather or whatever, but she's still, like, trucking along, and she still gets so excited when she sees me put my shoes on and get ready or whatever. So, like, yeah, I love that. Like, is any story that has a dog in it, that's why I was like,
Yeah.
"Janice," like, I would've taken the dog too. She might have been kinda like Janice's vibe. I don't know if she has any, like,
Yeah.
survival instincts.
That's why I like with Jake.
You
If it
know?
was me, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, obviously the dog's coming," and it would definitely be a thing where I'm thinking from the dog's perspective, they're like, "Oh, this is awesome, like, we just have a giant park,"
Yeah.
not pulling in, like, the weight of anything that's going on, but also, like we were saying
Mhm.
earlier, like, I think it would make you fight harder because it's like this animal is
Yeah.
dependent upon you. But also
Yeah.
just like when we have real world hard days and they're there to pick us up, like he in some ways I feel like is her rock to make sure that she's sane and she's not
Mm.
going to go crazy out there alone in the wilderness.
It's like a
Mhm.
constant, right? It's like bringing something from her life from before into the life now. And it's like the one constant that she can at
Yeah.
least rely on, and dogs, like, they really
Yeah.
are man's best friend. I don't know, my dog, she follows me everywhere, and I love her so much, but I'm like, "What am I the pack leader?" Like, no, I'm just the one that is, like, in tune with her needs the most. Because the boys, that's, like, their chores to feed her, and we ask for help, like, letting her out and all that stuff, but my husband, he's not a dog person, he never grew up with pets, and if we get a second dog, it's gonna be because he's acquiescing to me, where I think like, we'll see. It may or may not happen in the next 6 months. Because when he first said, "Okay, I think I might be ready for a second dog," I was just looking at all the kids' toys, and I was like, "Those
Oh
are
yeah.
all gonna become chew toys." And I was like, "Let's wait." And the boys are getting older, so their toys are less like
Yeah.
baby. I'm like, "No, we'll see." Well, plus, I could totally see our older dog. I could see her kind of like being the big sister or being the like, "Hey, you little scrap, get with the program here." But yeah, it just that's exactly right. Like even just it was her rock, but it was also she was like, "No, like I gotta." It was almost like a
Mhm.
motivator plus a
Yeah.
companion.
And like in a world
Absolutely.
where you can't trust or you feel like you can't trust anybody, you could trust like your dog,
Mm.
your fur baby. Like Janice isn't going to
Yeah.
turn you in or turn you over regardless how high value the treat is.
Exactly. And yeah, and then yeah, I think that would be helpful in terms of like as long as the dog was like had the instincts and was smart enough and they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Don't eat that." Like,
I
no,
don't
don't
know if you want my
they
go
like
about that,
sense
but
certain yeah. It's also like they can smell better, they can hear better, they can sense, I would think maybe or but yeah, it's so funny because I don't know if there was a situation where I think it was where Jessie was not sure if she wanted to start
Mhm.
hunting game. She was mostly depending on the land, on the plants, and setting up her system there. But I'm also thinking like my dog, she is like the animal kingdom is definitely still in her because she has attacked and killed baby bunnies in my parents' yard, in our yard. It's really disturbing because you look at her and she's like a sweet thing. She got like a cute face and oh, like little she hears me talking about her now she's here. So she's like, "Hey, what's up, mom?" But I've seen her would find things in the backyard and I'm like, "Tony, I like my husband, I was like, I need you to come look and take care of this." Or even my parents, if my like there'd be times where if my parents were watching one of the kids and we just send the dog along with them because they have a fenced in yard and they like her a lot. But they're like, "Oh, just so you know, just a heads up, Arya got into the little baby bunny's nest and we heard like, well, we heard it squealing in its in her mouth." I'm like, "Jesus Christ." Like, she's got it in her, but I think it's just instinctual, and that might be the one of the few things that I would worry about if, like, she would just go and take liberties where in certain situations where I'm like, "Wait a second, wait, wait, ew, no, I don't know."
Yeah. I
Yeah,
definitely I
it's
wanted
just
the dog in there as like a companion, but also it makes things like more complex. There's the part where she is like Janice is very curious about something and she's telling him like, "No, get back because if not you're going to get hurt."
Mhm.
And it definitely just makes me think of
Mhm.
times when we've been like out on the trail and there's like a cactus or something and I'm just like, "What are you guys doing? Like don't go get poked."
Yeah.
Or there's the part where they hear something and Janice is very alert. Like Janice clearly knows there is something up out there. They're not alone. And Jesse's not seeing anything yet. But Janice like
Yeah.
knows there is. But like I guess good enough recall to where he's just staying there with her and not making a move, but still very aware. I do jokingly say,
Right.
so like of our three dogs, our oldest one, he was like our only dog for a little over a year. And during the time, my partner was
Mm.
in the Navy and he went on deployment. So I was like, okay, we're fine. I'm going to train you
Mm.
like none other to the point where like
Yeah.
we were in like downtown San Diego and he was trained like enough to where if we wanted to, he probably could have walked like off leash next to us, but like wasn't gonna risk that because of drivers. And but he
Sure.
like was just very well trained and he still is. He's sassier now because he's older and he's like he's an
Yeah.
old man.
I know.
But I think like a lot
Yeah.
of I guess that kind of probably subliminally got in there. Maybe not as much of the recall of our youngest, who isn't in progress with his recall. But but
Sure.
yeah, it's like one of those where we're talking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I guess Janice has more of Bentley's recall.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you with the little sassiness as they get older, 'cause, like, I'm like, "What are you like, you were such a brat." I feel like she was not this much of a brat in the first, like, 8 years of her life. I'm like, "What is your problem?" And she just got to a point where she knows if she's relentless enough that she'll eventually get what she wants,
Oh,
and I'm just like, "Oh, fine."
you
Like, I just
win.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, "Oh god, I'm rewarding bad behavior," or, like, not bad, but, like,
Yeah,
unfavorable behavior. It's just mostly her, like, howling because 'cause she's got part of a hound in her, and so she's, like, howling because
command.
she wants, like, a little snack, like, a little special something. Yeah, and I'm like, she will especially if we've got company over, she knows that I will be more motivated because I just want her to be quiet, or she gets, like, antsy or nervous if I'm just standing up. Yeah, I could just be standing up, like, looking at my phone or something, like, not sitting down, and she just like, "Oh, so what are you gonna do? Like, what's happening?" I'm like, "Ugh, girl, like, just can you just, like, please chill." So, no, yeah, I recognize some of those where it's yeah, exactly, like, just reading your story, I could tell that you were a dog owner because he was very
Yeah,
much a character. He was very much a part of the story and a very important part, and I'm like, gosh, like, good thing thankfully she has him because otherwise, I can't imagine her being able to cope
hmm
as well as or at least, like, keep her mind, like, kinda one
yeah,
step at a time, right? Like, it's just so easy to just lose your shit or lose yourself in a situation like that when you're forced to uproot everything and you're also kind
yeah.
of scared. Well,
It's definitely a
it's
thing
yeah.
where you think about how like this was a vacation cabin, and so yes, there's books there, there's some puzzles, whatever. But like that's great the first go around. But what about around. Like you've already
Mhm.
done this puzzle so many times. And like
Yeah,
references that like almost like annoyance with like, oh, I already done this so many times. So I do think
right.
had she not had a companion, I feel like she would her mental stability would not have been there. I feel like there's a more likely chance that maybe she would have messed up in some way to where people would have conned
Yeah.
her existence. She might like there is always the possibility that maybe she would have leaned more into the humans in that small town because
Yeah.
she was like desperate. It is again like with speculative fiction, you take out one component or you add a component, suddenly we're trailing in a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
different direction. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, this is also something that you touched on, but just to bring it home, what do you hope readers get out of In
So
Stasis?
I hope one of my biggest things is that I guess I hope that readers see a little bit of themselves in Jesse or a little bit of Jesse in themselves, going back to the aspect of I think that everyone is capable of extraordinary things. Like, I think some people, if you were to tell them, like, oh, you're gonna get dumped in the middle of nowhere and you have to figure out how to survive, so many people, and especially women, would underplay their skills or their talents and what they could offer and just be like, "Nope, not possible." And I'm like, "Capable. I think you
Mm,
could." Like, I think not saying it's not hard, but I think you definitely could do those things. And then
yeah.
I think that aspect, but then also just the aspect of, yes, you like sometimes you can handle things by yourself, but wouldn't it be easier if there was somebody who you could trust? I use the example, yeah, sure, you can lift
Mm,
like a 50-pound bag of rice, but wouldn't it be better if you had a buddy to help you lift that 50-pound bag of rice? And that is okay because I think it's very like easy sometimes when situations get tough to put up the wall and to just be like, no, I'll take care of it. And it's like,
yeah.
yes, you can, but there could be another option. And then just from that for events like or for the arc reads, and then we have an event coming up. Like my kind of like my sign off is just like, remember, we're stronger together. Because I do think
Mm,
in whether it's little actions or big actions on anything, whether it's like a group project or impacting socio-political things, I think together we are stronger. When you're in a vacuum, you feel like all of your actions have no just no turnout, no, I don't know, results. But
right.
when we work together, like we can do so much more. Yeah. And people need to get out in nature.
Yeah.
Like go find
Right? Like, just become
yeah,
familiar at the
just go
very
for a hike.
least.
Like I refer to it as like she's the character is like a cosplay camper where it's like she likes camping and glamping for a weekend. Even if it's that, just go get some
Yeah, no. I know, it's like I grew up in, like, more closer to the city, like, I'm still in the suburbs, but I moved further out away from the city. I could still, like, make it to the city in a short-ish amount of time depending on traffic, but I yeah, my parents were not campers, but my husband's family where it was. He has a
Mhm.
whole system down, and so, the first time I went camping was when we started dating, and I realized, like, yeah, I'll do it. That's not, like, my favorite thing in the world to do, but, like, obviously, it's more fun when there's more people doing it because there would be a point where it would be a handful of friends and their families, and we'd all try to coordinate campsites and all that stuff, and so it would be super fun that way. But again, you're literally like, we don't have an RV, we don't have, like, a camper or anything like that, so, yeah, I've discovered I could huff it, I could put up with it, but it's not I would be fine if I never had to do it ever again. Like like,
So
it's not something I
so I
love
shouldn't
to do. I do it because, like, I know, like, it's a fun family thing and friend thing to do.
I
Yeah.
shouldn't camping with me because I am definitely the person where I'm like, we are in a tent, in a sleeping bag, and hopefully it doesn't rain because it does rain.
Yeah, no, oh, we've done yeah, I've been out because we have a 10-person tent, but that's it I don't know, it still
Yeah.
seems small for 2 adults and 2 children, and we don't have, like, a
Yeah.
fancy mattress or anything because 'cause I've seen
Oh,
people
yeah.
who have, like, double-decker, like, air mattresses, and I'm like, "Oh, that looks really cool." Like and for the kids too, when the kids get older, the more trips that we may or may not go on, they'll definitely need we'll probably get, like, a second one for them, but my husband, he went to the dollar store or, like, the thrift shop and got camping set of pots and pans. Like he got like he uses this 3 burner grill that like folds up, and we got like a hitch for my car, my SUV, so that we have more space. Because there was a couple the first couple times we went camping, and we were like, it doesn't all fit. Like, what are we going to do? Like, do we have to take 2 cars and drive 3 hours like up to
Yeah.
Wisconsin and do like we my husband was having a moment and I was just trying to be calm because I was like, I don't think I can help at all. Like, I don't think I can provide any solution because he's the one who's, like, really good at car Tetris or, like, refrigerator Tetris. He's good at, like, fitting things in and making things work, but he was like, Honey, what am I gonna do? It doesn't fit. What are we gonna do?" I was like, Honey, I don't" and so we eventually figured it out, but, yeah, we got the hitch and we got, like, a little trailer attachment so that we could get because he brings the grill and we have the camp and we have the pop-up tent for because there's been at least half the times I've gone camping, it
Yeah.
has poured at one point over the weekend. It either pours or it's like 90 degrees out. And I'm like, "Oh my god." Like, I'm just gonna, like, hang out. I don't know. Like, luckily, one of the campsites that we went to, it was like
Mhm.
recreation grounds, and so they had a lake with a beach and all that stuff. So it was easy, to just spend the day at the beach all day and, like, just sit in the lake and be like, "Okay, we're cooling off, and, like, we'll be okay for up until it starts being dark, like, outside." Yeah, no, I'm there with you, like, we could get along camping, but I'm saying, like, my husband is the one who's probably right right up your alley, but, like, you guys be planning together. You guys would be like, "No, we got this. You got this. I got this." It's so funny because 'cause I'm not against it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's not my first choice of
Yeah.
trips to
I have
do.
a friend who ironically, she lives in Colorado, and I'm like, "I don't" she is not a camping person, and I'm like, "How can you live in Colorado and not be a camping person?" She's like, "I like to go see it, and I like to
Mhm.
go home." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, that's fine." And I have a different who has
Yeah.
done the entire Appalachian Trail and, like, where she just has, like, the very most minimal supplies. And so it's
Oh
2,
god,
like,
that's
complete
wild. That's like 3
yeah,
months.
she did it, I think, in, like, 3. She did it, like, over the summer between, like, college
Yeah.
semesters to where my, like, point of view, because I grew up camping, but it was, like, campground camping and, like, car camping. And then I met her, and she's
Yeah.
doing this, and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, like, you're Superwoman, what?" And other
I see no, yeah, I've heard of people who do that, I'm
yeah,
like, "That's crazy to me," that, like I know I'm not one to talk because I've done the Chicago Marathon twice, but still, like,
yeah.
that's walking though, like, it's walking for months, like,
And it's
that's
definitely a thing.
wild.
I've talked to her since writing this and, like, jokingly said to her, I've thought of her and, like, resourcefulness because of the aspect of, like, everything that she would bring with her was very multi-purposeful because it could only weigh so much. It all had to do a
Right.
multi thing and just really breaking it
Yeah.
down like item by item and step by step. And so while like Jessie is, like I said, like the cosplay camper where loves it for the gram,
Yeah.
but doesn't actually want to have to like do the gross parts, like
Right.
having to then think about things and break it down like step by step and versus looking at like the whole thing and just becoming very overwhelmed. Yeah, that was like something to be
Yeah.
mindful of. And then just the aspect of like, what would like the for if you were out there, like what would the foraging look like? How would you garden? Like the weird logistics that you
Mhm.
in a normal life or like as a cosplay camper, you would never need to think about. And then you're like, oh man, I now have to think about
Right.
this. I gardened at home. That was dirt. Okay.
No, I'm still struggling with a green thumb that I don't know if I'll ever have, so that's why I'm thinking like, "Man, I don't know how successful I would be, like, trying to." Because that was very smart that you had her character do, was try to, like, not make it obvious, like, "Oh, here's a grounds," like, no, she strategically planted it in different spots and would check on it periodically, and that was, like, super smart. Because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, man, like, if something ever happens, that's a good plan. That's a good strategy, like, to keep in mind. Cause no, yeah, cause I don't I've tried my deck plants, but every year it's
Yeah.
like something different happens. So I'm like, I wanna have confidence in myself that eventually I'll get it down, but it's funny because 'cause I'm like, "Mom, come over here and, like, teach me things," like,
Yeah.
cause she's better at it than I am, but yeah, and then I try to teach my kids. I'm like, "Here, let's plant some little basil and some grape or cherry tomatoes, and then plant some flowers so that it looks cute." Because I don't eventually, maybe I will be brave enough to do, like, a larger plot, but for now, it's deck plants because 'cause I'm still, like, learning. So I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I gotta water it every day. What's
All start
going on?"
there.
And then when there's yeah, it's it's a learning experience, but I'm like, "Okay, kids, let's
Yeah.
learn together."
It's
Like,
yeah,
what
gardening in and of itself, and it's a wild challenge, and I imagine that in Jesse's day to day, maybe chapters and times that we didn't see, there were some struggles and some crops that did not make it. Adjusting, like,
Mhm.
so the book starts and she's in Austin, and she ends up going to like a mountainous area where there is snow and 4 seasons and everything. And it's just, yes, there is obviously similar elements of the aspect of like dirt, rain, and sun, but there's other things with like way different seasons where you have to assume that she
Yeah.
lost. Yeah,
I like different soils and different, like,
yeah.
temperatures,
When
and
we
yeah,
moved,
absolutely.
we lived like in the DMV area, and we've moved a bit, but now we're in Austin, Texas, and like our garden is good, but it definitely is a thing where there's certain plants where I'm like, I don't know why this worked last year and didn't work this year. Same area of the like area of
Mm.
the yard, all good, didn't do it, and so I can only imagine the
Yeah.
frustration when like we're doing this to I don't know enjoyment and supplement groceries. I'm
Or,
not if my kale doesn't come in, it's okay. I can go to the grocery store. But for her, it's like if something
yeah.
doesn't come in, now you need to find something else. So yeah, that was a thing where when I was writing the aspect of her like survival portion, I didn't want it to be a thing where she was necessarily like having too easy of a time, but also not like
Mm,
I don't know, not like skin and bones struggling every single day to where you're like, there's no way she laughed at this time. Somewhere like an
right.
ups and down, like ebb and flow, as I feel like most real survival is.
Yeah, there's definitely yeah, she had a learning curve and there's a balance, not just for reality's sake, but for you're writing a story, right? Like you want people to stick with it and to be entertained and engaged and really be like, oh shit, like how is she gonna, what is she gonna do? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's been interesting like diving into all of that, like the logistics of it and researching all of that. We have a newsletter and with every newsletter we've been doing like a real survival tip for people. So I jokingly say I'm going to turn all of my readers into like survival, I don't want to say experts, but like more educated survival people.
Yeah. For this reader, I did. I was you introduced me to things that I would not have ever thought of had I ever been in that
Yeah.
sort of situation,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so Ashley Peters, are you working on anything? I know this is your debut and it's about to release, but are you thinking about your next project?
Yeah,
Anything that you
so
could talk about?
I've started writing my next work in progress. Yeah. It is like the loose title is A Way to Another Place. It is a climate fiction story. I say that it has like the melancholy longing of like a folk song. In it, there's a theory that everything below the 42nd parallel one day will just be completely flooded out, which is like over half of the United States. And the
Mm,
aspect of in our timeline, like right now, there are articles talking about people moving
yeah.
places because of climate change. And the aspect
Yeah,
that like not everyone can just afford to up and move like even now,
right.
but if things climate wise got more dire and things started flooding out, people wouldn't be able to move because like prices of things would skyrocket, there wouldn't be enough access to things, and then you would have climate refugees, a very like extreme example of it. So
Yes.
the
I've read about that as well. It's like basically that kind of just looking at it, projecting that's like refugees, there would be
yeah.
that would be the
Yeah.
reason for sure.
And so like
Yeah.
in the story, our main character, her and her family like live below this 42nd parallel where everything is flooded out. And then one day they find out that the government assistance through like food rations and things like that would come down and support them in this area every so often is going to be pulled, and that all of those areas now are just going to be like unincorporated like land in air quotes, or you can make
Mm,
it to your way to the capital and they will transport you up north. And so her family has to decide like, does our main character and her sister, do they go to the capital to go north? And what does that look like? While you have people
yeah.
simultaneously who are currently living up north, off worlding because they also feel like the planet is just dying. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, there's that. I have a couple other that are like outlined, a little bit written here and there, but I've focused on this one for the next. And then for In Stasis, when I wrote it in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, this could be one book. If I wanted to continue it on, I know where the story goes and I guess ends. If I wanted to make it into a duology. And I'm
Oh,
personally very
okay.
content with it being one because I'm the person when I read a book or I watch a movie, I don't need the ending to, I don't know, like to flush every single detail out. Like, give me a good resolve. And if I want to continue the story on in my head, I'll do. Right now, I'm like, oh, I could write that or not. And honestly, I kind of
Because you did leave it like open-ended, not open-ended, but it's like, oh, there could be her how
yeah.
she
And
continues the
so that's one
story.
of those where it's like I'm curious what the readers will say. Because if it's a thing where everyone is like, I want to know
Mm,
what happens next, like, okay, I could be inclined to to finish that out for people. I think when I was younger, I definitely wanted everything more sealed up, and then through just like consumption of different books and movies, I became more okay with the quote unquote French
yeah.
ending, which this is not like a French ending by any means. It's way more resolved than that. But I'm okay with that. So that's a possibility. But yes, I'm working on the A Way to Another Place. And then I have two others that are like kind of dark comedies. And those ones I'm sitting with and taking my time just because I do feel like Comedy is a hard thing to write, and I wanna make sure the remarks hit correctly, and I think that layered with, like, I personally have a little bit of a quirky and dry sense of humor, and I don't want it to be a thing where, like, I'm writing this and people are like, "Oh, I didn't realize that was a joke." I'm like, "Oh, wait, no." So I'm in the research phase of basically, like, how do you write in that humor, and things like that.
Yeah. That seems fun though to learn that
Yeah, there's
method.
a movie called The Voices with Ryan Reynolds, and it was, like, a very bizarre movie. It's like a cult classic movie, and it's murdery, and it's also a dark humor. And that type of comedy, I'm
Mm.
like, I think it's hysterical. Like, I'm busting up. Other people have watched it, like my partner, and he's like, it's funny, but I don't know. I'm like, so
Yeah, you just gotta I think, like, it's okay to find your people to research for sure, because there's definitely a
yeah, like, is
community
this
out there for
funny? Is this
that.
not funny? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What I mentioned earlier, like, you're, "Ooh, this is a great one," and then you don't, like,
yeah,
hear anything. Like,
yeah,
yeah, no, I could see how that's, like it's a little scary, but you like that
yeah,
nervousness, you just use it to, like, fuel you. Like, when you're ready, you'll be ready, and then that's when you tell the
yeah.
story, that's when you tackle it. Because like, that's cool, that's okay, and it's cool that, like, it's in the idea phase right now,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And it's one of those where it's like, as I'm writing the one, of course, I'll be thinking about ideas with the other one. And so I'm like, okay, hold on, let me jot this down. And then I'll go back to what I'm actually writing. And like the one just, I don't know, needs a ton of research and stuff, which is all good.
Yeah.
Uh, like,
That's, like, part that a lot of people think
oh,
that's
yeah,
one of the more fun parts, though, it's just, like, the research, and before you know it, you've done, like, 4 hours of research for something
yeah.
that's, like, 5 sentences in the whole
Like,
thing. Like
research on the one, it deals with like HOAs and a cult and the idea of destiny and like star charts and an MLM vibe. It's definitely
Mm,
one like I know I'm going to enjoy the research on it so much because I do find so many of those things and like human psychology just so fascinating to where I was literally saying today I'm like I'm going to love the research on all of this, just like figuring out the inner workings of all of these things.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. Oh gosh, that's so fun, that is exciting because 'cause you're just like I can imagine you're like, "Okay, no, I have
Yeah.
to you just have to focus on one
And
thing at a
we were
time."
like I said, we were on a little trip like post Christmas, pre New Year's in Colorado, and it was nice because I did get just a bunch of writing in like while I was there because it was a very chill trip, like as we designed it to be. But it made it to where I could focus on a chapter, really get in the headspace of those characters and what was going on, and just let those words flow out. And I don't know, just yeah, I guess a lot done. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. There's still a lot more to do, but it was just fully in that.
Yeah, so that was so I'm sure you've heard of it, but one thing the series that I just got in, Crawler Carl, and that reminds me of, like, a dark humor because it's very funny and it's a very good story because it's so outlandish, but it's also it taps into, like, the humanity and the human emotions of, like, how challenging a situation like that could be on the human population and
Mhm.
how it changes people. It's similar to, like, a dystopian situation, right? But, like, if you're looking for the
Yeah.
dark comedy of it, that,
Okay.
I would definitely recommend that even just for a sake of being entertained. Because some people are like, "Oh, I don't nec they don't necessarily
Mhm.
like dark comedy," but I just kept hearing so much hype, and I'm so glad that I gave in. I'm like, I finished the 3rd book in the series a little bit ago, and I'm like, "Oh, man, I wish I didn't have a life so that I could just, like, keep reading and reading." 'Cause, like, reading in general, I'm like, "Oh, man, there's so many on my reading list," and one of those it's easy to get, like and it's a lot because it's basically like literary RPG, so there's a lot of world building, and it's like when he gets an achievement or when he approaches a boss or a mob or when he gets, like, prize items, but the way that it's presented, like, the AI that gives him the gifts or that's running the show is also it's unserious and it's hilarious, so I'm just like, if you're looking for, like, just either to be entertained or for ideas, if you just the tone overall, right? Like, just the overall tone, I would say that it takes itself just
Yeah.
seriously enough. And also, oh, it reminds me of the movie in
Okay.
with the robot, the A yeah, the AI robot with, like, the sequel came out last year. It takes itself. Like, it's campy, but it's also, action oriented, and it's got so many jokes in there. It's like the second It's 'cause in Megan, she's, like, tasked with protecting Katie or being friend, the little girl, and she's not on market. She's, like, still in the beta phase, and so if, like, there's a dog that bites her arm or if there's a bully that's picking on her and causing her harm, the robot reacts accordingly because it's just learning on its environment, it's downloading information, and it's under you know, seeing like, "No, this is the most efficient way to handle the situation." And then the sequel, it's like there's a bigger problem, so they need her help because she's the only one that would be best equipped to do it. 'Cause and then they're like, "Okay." She's like, "No, you disabled me because I did this." And they're like, "No, we disabled you because you did this and this." Like, it's so funny, like, it takes itself just seriously enough, but it
Yeah.
knows what it's about. So, I would think there's so many fun examples that you could turn to get that vibe and to get the tone and to just really, like, have fun with it, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so Ashley Peters, where can we find you online and on
On Instagram and Threads, it's at Ashley underscore Peters underscore author. And then my website is just the www.ashleypetersauthor.com. I have on the website, there are books that people can pre order, like signed or unsigned. And then it'll also be on Barnes and Noble and Amazon. And then if you are local to like the Austin area, it will be in a bookstore called Book People and then another bookstore called Birdhouse. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I love it when authors do, like, local stuff because I try my best to keep an eye
Yeah.
out for that stuff too. Cool. Okay, Ashley Ashley Peters in Stasis, that is out on January 12th. Ashley, thank you so much for your time and your answers, getting down into, like, some of the comfortable, less comfortable things that we could talk about that the emotions that your story brings out into readers, and, yeah, feel free to keep in touch when and if you're ready to tell more stories and put your work out, let me know, I'd
Awesome.
love to
Thank
chat
you all
again.
so much for having me and for listening. And I hope you all enjoy it. Maybe this will be a little cathartic for you too.
There you go. That was Ashley Peters talking about her book in Stasis. That book is available now. Check out the show notes to find links where you can see where to find the author online, on social media, and where to purchase the book. In the show notes, you'll also see where to find Cantina Book Club on your favorite social media book communities, such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube, Threads, Facebook, and more. And I would love and appreciate it if you could hit that follow or subscribe button so that you never miss out on book reviews and author interviews. If you have any book loving friends who are looking to get more out of their reading lists, please share Cantina Book Club with them so that they can find upcoming releases and interviews with authors. Another way to help this podcast is to head on over to your favorite podcast player and give Cantina Book Club a rating and review. It helps me reach more potential listeners and fellow book lovers like you. And that goes for any podcast that you listen to. It's one of the easiest ways that you can help out. If you need book recommendations, you can reach out to me. I'm always excited to share my recent favorites. Or you can head on over to cantinabookclub.com to read more in-depth book reviews of all types of genres. While you're at it, you could subscribe by entering your email on the website so that you could get new reviews and episode posts delivered directly to your inbox. If you want to support Cantina Book Club even more, you can donate by finding the form on cantinabookclub.com. Whether it's a one-time donation or as little as $1 a month, I seriously appreciate the support and will share my appreciation by giving you a shout out on the show and on social media. And finally, one of the best ways to help authors promote their works is to head on over to Amazon, Goodreads, or wherever you rate your books and give a title that you've read a rating and review. It's free and it helps out almost as much as actually purchasing the book and tagging on social media. Thanks so much for listening and see you next time. Cheers.